Peace, everyone. It's BlackHighPriestess. Um, I want to talk a little bit about detecting falsehood, and I'm, I want to refer to the latest Kevin Samuels video that I saw in reference to the the episode entitled BBW, which means Big Black Women. I guess in some instances it could just mean a big-bodied woman too, but I believe it originally is referring to big black women, and that demographic, especially what we see exaggerated in comical media a lot, that's promoted to the black community or advertised as black comedy. We find a lot of references to big black women, and just to kind of dissect that acronym. I want to talk about detecting falsehood in reference to the content in the video. I'm not really making a response video so much as I'm I'm kind of critiquing what I saw from a oracle perspective, and letting my audience know how to really detect falsehood in people, and just using a lot of what Kevin Samuels is doing to talk about another acronym, MGTOW, which means men going their own way. He's not talking about that subject, so to speak, but he's revealing to the black crowd, the world star hip hop crowd, so to speak, what he's revealing, conservative standards and what they look like, and he's translating that into a way that black people, I believe, or that the urban society, or maybe even a lower class society, will accept and look at and understand. As someone who, I don't really know where he got his start from, but I feel like he's somebody who, prior to, his recent notoriety that he got more broadly for, criticizing a notably dark-skinned sister and labeling her as average, in a time where we have a rise of feminism and a rise of Black Lives Matter issues and things like that. I think that his criticism of the sister who, for the most part, was, from, I think, general perspective, was not worthy of the level of criticism he gave her. And I think that episode gave him popularity, and in a good way, because now he can, with a more professional tactic, dissect and discuss the topics that he was discussing maybe a little bit more loosely and comfortably in his own platform, where he gained, more of a following, because he was rude, not because what he was saying was untrue. But I want to talk about that latest episode, and kind of remind people, when you're coming from a spiritual perspective, you have to understand where superficial people are coming from anyway, in detecting falsehood, because looking at the episode, looking at this cultural appreciation of big black women that has been thrust upon the black community, in media, and kind of using that as a way to really examine the segregation that's happening between conservative or classy, upper class, nothing to do with how much money you make, by the way, Class is, you can't buy class. So when I'm talking about class, I'm not talking about your social status and your income level. I'm talking first and foremost how civilized and how classy you are as an individual. Because as we know, as we see, one of the funniest videos I seen was Baba Elder Rashan doing a video about Donald Trump's wife, Melania Trump. Melania deals with black anyway. Melanie, melange, anything dealing with mel, the suffix mel refers to blackness. But anyway, specifically black femininity. But we'll get to that. Melusine. Sorry, can't help the tangents. But Elder Rashan's giving a video talking about how Melania Trump's in some type of pose, and it's obviously a sexual pose, and she's in lingerie, like a bikini style lingerie, whatever. And he's basically saying, this is our first lady, and we have images like this of our first lady, and he says this is something that looks like it's out the ghetto hood, so. Just in referencing to class, comparing a Playboy type of footage of Donald Trump's first lady to the images that we have of Michelle Obama. So what I'm talking about is money and wealth, prestige and things, those are not how I gauge class. But it is a definition of it when you're talking about social classes. But first and foremost, class has to deal with how civilized you are, how you treat each other, how you behave within yourself. So we're seeing in the black community, black people, meaning descendants of slavery or victims of oppression, or those who deal with oppression, one, based on color and based on lack of financial prosperity because of not having the 40 acres and a mule, and coming from slavery, and coming from a heritage, meaning what you inheriting being of the labor class. So this is what social standards of class essentially deal with the wealth gap. But first it deals with civilization. So this is a great way to discuss conservative blackness or conservative Black American ideology in comparison to liberal Black American ideology. And what we're seeing is the Huxtable demographic, the upper class, upper middle class, or maybe more suburban standard of Black American values compared to the lower class or the working class or the criminal class of Black American values and experiences, and how that creates liberalism. So how we the actual catalyst, how we actually dissect class prior to slavery, which created a lower class or a labor class or a slave class within Black America, class was directly related to religious standards that you upheld. It was directly related to the religious standards of civilization and hygiene and customs that you upheld. and not dealing with the separation of church and state, but the combination of those two powers that determine class. So when you're in America and we have democracy and liberal agendas that distinctively want to separate church and state because they have no regard for religious morals or values, we have that clashing with the aspect of society that upholds standard traditional Christian or Western, which comes from what? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and Reformed Christian, pilgrim Christian values, which historically were not as strict as the Catholic Church. They were the looser values that looked to that went to indigenous places and had missionary agendas. So again, that has to do with level of education, how much you know about history to determine what you actually know about what you think you stand for when you're taking political sides. But what I'm getting at is what we see with Trump is a highlighting of that segregation that was always there. But prior to Obama and 9/11 and all this, black people were able to come together and agree. And we didn't let different jobs and we didn't let all those differences come between the fact that we were black Americans and that we had a culture of sticking together. And what they did is they injected the parasites of mulatto imperialism in our culture, and we now accepted white people as black and as standards of blackness, and we no longer knew how to stick together because we became confused about who was black, and we let white people who had no black agendas other than keeping white supremacy in our heritage, we let that, and we let light skin imperialism by being confused about what the definition of black was. We let light skin imperialism and white people with Latino accents represent blackness, namely black femininity. And the whole campaign to get the black man to give away his wealth and his heritage to white women, keeping and ensuring black labor class in America still exists, worked. How does all this discussion of class and the clear segregation that we have seen highlighted with Trump's administration? We started to see conservative black people speak up about what racism really was and looked like, and clashing with liberal black people who don't understand that racism likes to keep us unhealthy, which is directly related to obesity and diabetes and all this stuff in the black community, and likes to make that look glorious and look fun. Liberalism, feminism, complaining, blaming rich white people, and then blaming people of a certain class, and then blaming people of a certain religious moral ideology. Because for some reason, people who have these traits tend to be successful, and people who have other traits tend to be the stereotypes that are often making the same complaints with no accountability for what needs to be done to be equal to the people who you want to automatically be equal to, without upholding the same standards in life that conservative people have. And so what Kevin Samuels is doing is he's opening the eyes of women who are willing to listen, and also men who are willing to listen, because it's easy to criticize black women because black women make it easy. Black women make it easy. But how often is a man gonna call into another? How often is a brother gonna call into another brother's show and ask another brother who, let's be honest, most black men are gonna look at him as being gay anyway, or effeminate. So how many brothers, how many black men who are not at Kevin Samuels in his social circle and class level and things, how many brothers are going to call in and put themselves on the spot nationwide to possibly be criticized, or possibly be told, hey, you don't make enough, you don't qualify, you're not fit, you don't know how to protect, you can't provide, you're not a marshal. How many brothers are going to put themselves on the spot, as opposed to sisters who want to? So what I wanted to really get at is the fact that even though he may be selective in what episodes he puts out and things, look at I want sisters, black women of all shapes and sizes and ages and colors, to understand from a spiritual perspective. One, the Bible's going to give you the best guidance when it comes to relationships. Not any modern person. Spiritually, that's what I found. None of this other New Age stuff or Gnosticism is going to do it either. But New Age Gnosticism will undoubtedly turn you into a hoe. It will open up sexual doors that the average human, flesh and blood, cannot handle without corrupting. So you get turned out sexually, and a lot of y'all are going to end up with a lot of demonic soul ties or STDs or babies, in the name of sacred sexuality and sacred femininity and Kama Sutra shit. That a lot of that stuff is not for humans, let alone New Age, Western, whitewashed, genetically reduced, Americans. So, my inspiration to analyze and critique that episode entitled BBW, I believe at least BBW asked why her friends can't get a man. It's to something to that effect. I have the video in the description, so you can watch it and actually look at the video and what I'm trying to say from a spiritual perspective. Learn to listen and hear with spiritual ears, and listen beneath the surface to how superficial people are and think, and the confines a lot of times that humans are in when you're not letting spirituality take over, or when you don't have that heritage of spiritual existence, because there's such different standards for average people, regular people, versus people, and not versus, but compared to, because everyone has a trait that's necessary here and now, but in compared to people who don't have spiritual also known as paranormal or supernatural traits. There's going to be different standards. I want people to watch that video and ask yourself, is this sister who's calling in and asking this question, how am I the exception? Why am I the exception? My friends are saying that I'm the exception to these rules and standards that you're setting forth. Is she calling in and asking for a friend, or is she asking for herself? Because I clearly see a woman who is using maybe a loose comment that maybe one of her friends made, and looking that and taking that, and instead of really wondering, why can't my friend get a man, she's wondering, why do I have a man? I look at this sister and I look at a woman who's asking herself, why is it that I have a man and my friends don't, if I look at me and my friends as equals? I look at a woman who is not there to defend big black, because some women have come on that show clearly to defend their stance and the stance of women who got multiple kids, are overweight, are not attractive without cosmetic, all these things. This woman is not calling in to defend herself or even to defend her friend. She's asking a question, but I don't hear a woman asking for her friends. I hear a woman who called in for herself, and she called under the guise of, my friends are saying this. But what she did not say is, I want to know, am I in a relationship with a high value man? Am I in a relationship for the right reasons? Why am I she's asking for herself. Why am I the one who's in a relationship when if I look at my friends as equal to me? Why is it? So Kevin, and listen to her language. I'm the woman who defies the odds. My female friends want to know. Men say they won't date a woman like me for such and such reasons. Because and this is what she's saying. Her female friends, her guy friends are saying that they would feel that they're not needed because she has a degree and income and everything. Well, Kevin Samuel specifically tells her later on in the video toward the end, that's just stuff guys say because they don't really just want to tell you, I won't date you because you don't meet my standards of femininity. So he answered her question that she didn't ask. She stated these are the things that her friends are saying, but through stating that, she's calling in for herself because her girlfriends have phones and her girlfriends have that number and her girlfriends have the same access to Kevin Samuels that she has. What her girlfriends don't have is time and energy to be asking someone like Kevin Samuels about where they measure up, because her girlfriends may not be as attractive as she is by Southern standards, which a lot of Southern standards is, yeah, she would be attractive, but she's really a 6 at best. When we're dealing with real beauty and African standards, not Southern American standards. We know what the Southern American standard is. A fat white woman. And that's clearly what she looks like her mama is. This woman, and I'm not trying to criticize, I'm trying to keep it real from a spiritual perspective. This woman clearly looks mulatto. So when she mentions the Southern standards and Kevin Samuel stops her right there and says, you know what, that's another thing that you big black women like to throw up, when you don't want to accept that that's not the standards that men have. It's those slave standards that black men were imposed on black men. Meaning that those white women that the white men did not want to sleep with were imposed on the black slaves as sex slaves. And to this day, lowly, low class, easily conquered black men go after big black women. The whiter the better, because it reminds them of that genetic inclination that was imposed on them to sleep with the undesirable white women that the high class men didn't want, because they wanted sisters that looked like sexy, skinny, beautiful African Egyptian queens, Kemetic queens. And those were the slaves that were getting raped by the white men and the black men. And I'm not saying this happened through and wide. I'm giving a perspective of where these Southern standards, they come from slavery. And we need to talk about it. We need to talk about colorism and feminism and why black men are so weak. And we need to talk. I spiritually, this woman is not asking for her friends. She's asking, why do I have a man? Why did I get chosen? Is it because I'm easy? Is it because maybe I'm lighter? Is it because my mama's white? Or because I look like I'm half white? Yes. Yes. Black men have been programmed since slavery to deal with white women in a certain way. And a lot of you black women, you don't want to talk about these things. And I'm going spiritual with it. Kevin Samuels is dealing with a financial conservative perspective. I'm dealing with a spiritual one. These standards of masculinity and femininity that we have in the black community are still directly related to slavery. Black women will sleep with men who have nothing to offer because black male slaves had nothing to offer. Unless they have their spiritual wealth intact. Black women became at the mercy of the ruling class. It generated a motherhood that instilled fear in her sons and responsibility in her daughters to protect men. It completely switched the natural order of gender roles in blacks. And it created a sexual slavery in blacks. And when you see black men with white women, you're looking at sexual slavery and genetic manipulation. So when the sister's talking about these standards in the South, you're looking because you see black men up north get fine white women. You see. I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I want to talk about some things, and you all let me know in the comment sections, because I'm not speaking for everything, but I'm telling you what I see from a spiritual perspective. You're looking at a sister who's trying to figure out, why is it that I have a man? Well, you're in the South. You're light skinned. You're dealing with a heritage who is a lot closer to the slavery traditions than those who migrated up north. So you're dealing with people who eat a certain way and are naturally more obese than those of us up north who deal with winters and we pack on weight for different reasons. We have different body shapes, you know what I'm saying? So people in the South are bigger. So are women in the South bigger? But men in the South are bigger too. You see. But those who migrated away from slavery, we dealt with a different kind of white supremacy. That city slicking white supremacy. That integration white supremacy, you know. So it's, you know, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. That new slave, you know. But my point is, some of you sisters When you're looking at your girlfriends and you're saying Kevin Samuels asked the right questions. Are you more attractive than them? In the face, and I can see. I think that she's attractive. I don't think that she was an unattractive woman, but I think the fact that she's obese, you're a 6. You that's your body shape. It's not going to change. That's how you naturally are. And so for a man who works out and a man who has a different health standard, so what she's really asking is, if I look at myself the way my friends do, and I see, and I'm looking at, and I defy these standards because I have a man. Why do I have a man? Why was I picked out? Why in a lineup compared to my other friends am I picked out? Yeah, you may be more attractive. You may only have one form of baggage instead of 2, 3, 4, whatever. But what wasn't talked about was the type of man that she is with. Are you with a man who has high standards for femininity? Or are you with a man who may looked at you and your friends out of a lineup? Because again, and this is what I just made a comment on a friend's post, and I referenced Kevin Samuels when she was talking about, and she made a post about high value man, and someone made some stupid comment, telling women to, work out and this and that to get a man. And I kind of, this is another subject, but I made a point to say that, you know what, working out isn't going to make a naturally obese woman skinny without plastic surgery any more than a naturally skinny woman is going to get double D boobs and thick without surgery. Your body shape is your body shape. If you weren't groomed to work out at a young age, your body's not really, it's going to be very hard to reprogram your body to burn fat the way those of us who've been working out since childhood or younger have. That's a reality. What's not a reality is that being skinny is going to get you a man quicker than being naturally obese and loving yourself. And this is the thing, being a certain body, fitting the standards that Kevin Samuel sets, they're realistic, but it doesn't mean in this society you're going to find a man, because a lot of men don't meet the standards that Kevin Samuel set any more than the women do. And this is what a lot of you women who do have a man are asking yourselves secretly: what type of man do I have? And am I better off with this man? Or do I have a man who is, he's okay with my degree and everything? Maybe my guy friends wouldn't date me, or they friendship zoned me because they say it was because I have a degree or because I'm independent. But what Kevin Samuels is clearly telling me is it because I'm not really that feminine enough, or because their standards for beauty are higher than what I can meet. So why is it do I have a man? You have a man with low standards. You have a man who's probably typical. He wants the lighter. You're the lightest. You're the brightest. You have a degree has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. A degree is it's easy to get. And a lot of times those things, they point to the type of parenting and background you come from more than how intelligent you actually are. Because you have a degree, but you also have a baby daddy. Come on. So those things don't mean... So what Kevin Samuels is keeping it real with women, the things that you think matter to men don't. And when men try to be polite with you and tell you it's this and this and that, and in the reality, a lot of you women, you have a man because your skin is lighter. You look whiter. You look more mixed. So you still giving, and you probably have a black man. Your man's probably black. So you giving him some standard of trophy idealism, some bragging points. You look better than your friends. So compared, and again, obese people hang out with obese people. That was the point I was making on the sisters page when I commented about being skinny. The reality of it is obese men like obese women, because fat people hang out with fat people, because fat people have certain lifestyles surrounded by unhealthy food or eating, or their glandular issues. And it's not skinny people have thyroid issues and things like that, but the reality of it is people who work out and eat healthy hang out with each other. At some point, diet and exercise is gonna put a wedge between you socially with other people. Just like smokers and non-smokers hang out Smokers tend to be around smokers. You know? So obese people tend to date obese people. Because there's a lifestyle that comes with that body shape and weight. You see. So a lot of you women, you're asking yourself why you have a man. Well, ask yourself, what is it that chose? If you're equal to your friends, why did you get chosen? I can guarantee your friend who, when Kevin Samuels asking, are they above average in the face? Do they have more kids? Yeah, they might have more kids by maybe multiple men. But I can guarantee your friends are probably a little darker skinned than you. Your friends may have natural or more distinctly African hairstyles. And your friends are probably not as superficial as you. They probably don't indulge as much in Kevin Samuels. They may not have degrees or whatever. They probably do, but they probably are just actually more intelligent women who weren't still desperate for a man and looking to have that title so much that they went with the first guy who complimented them. I'm not insulting the sister. I'm just telling you the reality of why when you think you're equal to your friends, but you got the man, what is it about you that got chosen, and what type of man are you with? Because your other guy friends didn't choose you, and they told you it was because